Gullit. Van hem verwacht men dat hij de ster van dit EK wordt in 1988. En gaat er dan maar aan staan. John van Schip. Frank Rijkaard. Die zeer imponerend aanwezig is binnen de selectie. Jan Wouters. En de man die deze 11 bedacht, Rinus Michels. Geen verrassingen dus in het Nederlands elftal. Ook niet in het team van de Sovjet-Unie. Doelman Rinat Dasayev van Spartak Moskou. Morgen wordt hij 31 jaar. Vladimir Besonov, Dynamo Kiev. Een van de 9 spelers van Dynamo Kiev in het elftal. Vladimir Gidiatulin, de libero van Spartak Moskou. En verder komen alle spelers dus uit Kiev. Oleg Kuznetsov, de harde voorstopper. Demjanenko, de linksback die zo aanvallend is ingesteld. Rad, de linker middenvelder. Gennady Litovchenko. Een hele belangrijke man in de ploeg van de Sovjet-Unie, Savarov. En dit is de man die door Nederland wordt gevreesd. Oleg Protasov, de spits. De Europese voetballer van het jaar van 1986, Igor Belanov. En misschien is dit dan een verrassing, Michailitchenko, die in West-Europa niet zo bekend is. We hadden gedacht dat Vladimir Lobanovski de coach Sulak Filipse zou opstellen. Een stugge mandekker die op het vierlandentoernooi in Berlijn Maradona voor de voeten liep. En Nederland ging er een beetje vanuit dat Sulak Filipse tegen Gullit zou spelen. Dat is dus niet het geval. Dieter Pauli uit Reit bij Mönchengladbach. Hij kan op de fiets naar Venlo. Zo dicht woont hij bij de Nederlandse grens. Leidt opnieuw een belangrijke wedstrijd met Nederlandse inbreng. En daar is hij, Ruud Gullit. En kijk de spanning eens op die gezichten. En dit moet een belangrijk wapen voor Oranje zijn. En ook Johan Cruijff met Henny Warmenhoven daarnaast. ...40.000 Nederlanders ondersteunen de 11 van Ruud Gullit. Een fantastische voetbalsfeer hier in Keulen. Die prachtige...
referee Dieter Pauly from Holland, not noted amongst the players, the journalists, the fans, not noted for optimism. But there's a real buzz about everybody from that country that I've met out here. They really believe they've got a team to win this competition. But this is a very difficult starting match for them. The Soviet Union with a poor track record overall in the final stages of major competitions, but usually they get underway with quite an explosion. Remember that 6-0 win over Hungary in the last World Cup in Mexico. Koeman wanting Hans van Breukelen to come, which he did to get there before Litovchenko. Vandenberg playing on the right, with his club teammate Berry Van Aale behind him. They like to work as a pair, and Rinus Michels uses them in that respect. Frank Rijkaard wearing number 17. Vandenberg couldn't collect it. Hidiatulin stepping in. Litovchenko giving it away straight to Armin Muren, whose control was instant, so too was the ball forward. Hidiatulin was able to cut it off and get it back towards Dasayev. And the foul by Van Tigelen. And it was a feature, of course, of the 1974 Dutch side, who are well remembered for the flowing nature of their football, but they could also look after themselves as well. And there was a mean streak in there, which I'm sure Rinus Michels will be looking for from this generation of players. Demianenko sliding the ball out. These two countries have only met twice before in friendly games, both in Rotterdam. The Dutch won the first and drew the second. So it's something of a first in a competitive sense. Van Tigelen, whose versatility is well known in Dutch circles, and he'll be quite happy to operate on the left. And it's a little tactical switch this by Michels to move Vandenberg and Van Aale back to the right, their favoured side, having played them together on the left in the last warm-up international against Romania in Amsterdam. Van Aale. That's Wouters. Didn't get very far. Header down from Van Aale. Koeman. Well, you just have to look at the record books to believe it's true, and Cesar Menotti, watching their Argentina's coach in 1978, I'm sure will be well aware of Koeman's prowess of goals from long range. 21 league goals in the Dutch First Division over the past season. Demianenko. This is Van Skip. Fouled by the apologetic Besanov. Well, it's a good 30 yards out, maybe a yard or two more. That won't worry Gullit, or indeed Koeman, who is loitering with some intent. Here's Ronald Koeman. Gullit. Well, he's got to live with this sort of treatment. He must be used to it in Italy. Plenty of stick handed out. And he is blessed so far in his career with a very stable temperament. I think he's going to need it. Well, what can Hullet come up with this time? It's his shot, and it skims away over the bar. Yesterday, Ruud Gullit, as he was ordered by Mikkels to watch the first half of the game between Denmark and Spain. As soon as the compulsory first half was over, he turned the channel and watched the Nelson Mandela concert from Wembley. Rats. Yanenko, intercepted by Gullit. Rats having to get back. Gullit's past him, Bosman going to the far side, and Skipper's joined him in the middle. It was blocked by Khidiatulin, who combined an attempt to tackle with some strong-arm tactics as well. Panala with the long throw, Bosman coming in to meet it, but it was nodded out by Mikhailchenko. Well, Hullet, it seems, does have a man-for-man marker. Mikhailchenko, who was closest to him in the opening exchanges, but he's a creative player as well, behind the front two. And the two main strikers that Van Breukelen has got to worry about do have real credentials, Belanov and Protasov. That's asking too much of Van Aale. Might well be a free kick. Van Aale pressing on enthusiastically. Khidiatulin, who's re-emerged into the international scene. He missed the '82 World Cup finals, where Dasaev was there, as he was in '86, but Khidiatulin missed that as well. And that was because of alleged drunken behaviour. Well, he served his time, and he's out there now in a major tournament. Pantikula. Zavarov with the low centre of gravity and the ability to turn sharply. Well, that's not up to his usual standard of passing. Rijkaard. Varneberg. Dispossessed by Mikhailchenko. Mikhailchenko, who was involved in a tug-of-war between the selectors for this squad and the Soviet Olympic squad. The feeling is that he will go to Seoul as well. But they do have a problem, the Soviets, with the Dynamo Kiev members. They're in danger of burning them out, playing them the whole year round. Kuznetsov, Mikhailchenko. Demyanenko. Curve forward by Demyanenko. Rijkaard kept his balance better than Protasov. Both sides capable of the cavalier approach, but making murmurings in the build-up. They would be a little bit more cautious here. And I would think the need not to give too much away will have been furthered by England's demise against the Republic of Ireland. At this moment in time, I suppose you could say that these are the two fancied nations to go through from Group 2. really harm either cause in that respect. Rijkaard's header. The second one was from Muren. And here's Arnold again. Ageless Arnold Muren. Muren's very important to the way the Dutch played, but Datsaev certainly fumbled. Zavrov planting the header down for Protasov. Litovchenko. And not a piece of control worthy of a past European Footballer of the Year. Belanov finding himself on the right and running out of room. So, Valery Lobanovsky, about whom there were health scares earlier in the year. He was up bright and early this morning with his players. They trained locally around 9:30. Presumably took their breakfast after that and then a fairly healthy sleep. Belanov. It's a Soviet throw. Besanov trying to make some progress. Well, the corner that's encouraged Vasily Rats. He of the excellent left foot. It was won by Besanov, but Rats has gone across to take it. Five Soviet players waiting in the middle. And Hullet back there to defend. As the whistle went in any case. And amongst the flags and the Dutch fans in the crowd, that was Andy Bremer, scorer of West Germany's goal in their opening game. Bosman is marvellous in the air, as we saw at Wembley. Hullet trying to react off a mishit shot by Muren. Rijkaard. Sometimes the Dutch look vulnerable defensively. There was a bit of confusion then, but in their 8 group games, they conceded only 1 goal. And that was at home to Greece. Van Aalen. Hullet's made a run that's not really been detected particularly quickly by the Soviets defending. Kranenberg. Furthest forward, Protasov. It's a game that won't have too many offsides in it, I wouldn't think. Both sides defending with depth. Kuma. Hullet drawing Khidiatulin, the sweeper, out of the middle. It was an elastic change of direction. But the clearance wasn't quite total. Khidiatulin did enough to halt Hullet. That's not too easy to say. Rijkaard has made his way forward. Bosman in there with Hullet, the 3 most likely to attack the ball in. Rijkaard. Bosman will have to chase. Van Tichelen. Van Aalen. The players warming to their task. helped by a highly enthusiastic Dutch crowd. There were traffic jams 5 hours before the kickoff, where the Autobahn down from the north, at the exit point to the stadium, all the fans attracted by the team, built by Rinus Michels, who leaves the job after this championship. He could easily be back again in years to come, despite the fact he's now turned 60. I think Munoz, the Spanish coach, is something like 66, so it's a job for a senior citizen. Van Aale. Muren comes across to take the corner. Rats has to concentrate on his part of the defensive zone in the middle. Might fall for Koeman. Rijkaard. It's Barnenberg who's cropped up on the left. And it's another Dutch corner. Looking for Khalid Dassaev in trouble. No free kick given. The Dutch repositioning in the middle. And Belenov unable to try and run it into the Dutch half. It was to reasonable safety, I suppose. Van Aale was dealt with by Dassaev, and the power as well. Colette is in there. Muren. Rijkaard's header. On from Van Skip. Bosman going in, and that's the goalkeeper's. As Bosman lets him know he's around. So even more electricity generated by the strike from Koeman. Vasily Rats with a throw. Protasov, 7 goals in his last 5 internationals. And had he been fully fit for Mexico, maybe the Soviets would have gone further in the competition. Going out in the first knockout game to Belgium in that marvellous 4-3 game in which Belenov got a hat-trick and ended up on the losing side. That was Besanov going in with studs showing. Just over 20 minutes gone. Holland 0, the Soviet Union 0. But the Dutch have come closest. And Rijkaard. And the yellow card goes to Litovchenko. And he came into the tournament with a yellow card to his name. So that means he will be suspended from the game against the Republic of Ireland in Hanover. So more good news for Jack Charlton. Koeman. Would you believe it? The red, white and blue on the faces, the Dutch colours of the flag, of course. And the orange, very much the central colour for the football side. Protosov. And then Wouters, the man who does the real toil in midfield. It's a good break on the far side by Besanov, who started out in the Soviet youth team as a forward. Indeed, 11 years ago, he was voted the best player in the World Youth Championship in the first of those tournaments. And when I tell you that the second tournament had his best player, a certain Diego Maradona, you can tell the sort of standards we're talking about. Back at the moment in the heart of the defence, dropping off to be the last man as Rijkaard jumps for the header, and Koeman is perfectly positioned. Muren. Rijkaard. Van Tichelen. It peeling away, trying to get beyond Mikhailchenko, but Kuznetsov was able to intercept. And here's Belanov. His striking partner Protosov in the middle, joined now by Rats, who's beaten by Van Aala. Rijkaard. Comfortably back by Vandenberg. The Soviet Union won the first European Championship in 1960. They beat Yugoslavia in the final in Paris. Rijkaard has to be safe and sure here. And in the end he was, not without a scare or two. Didn't appeal for the corner, although the crowd thought it might have been. Demyanenko let it run. Safe in his knowledge that it would be a goal kick. There is a tried and trusted look about the Soviet team. As you can see, he's playing his 66th international tonight. Besanov 71, Kassayev 81. Wouters. And the return pass from Bosman didn't come. Now Belanov's given it away, not for the first time in this match. Vansky. Well, it turned it into a pass, really. Over Bosman, who made his move a little too early, but the Dutch still have a corner. Well, the positioning the same for Muren's attempt at the set piece. Pull it at the near post. Rijkaard there as well. Kuznetsov. And it's onto the roof of the net from Bosman, whose goal-scoring record is quite spectacular. This is his 13th game, and he's got 11 goals. Now, 5 of those were in the first game against Cyprus, which had to be replayed, but at the moment the Dutch are counting that as an official international, although of course not as a European Championship international. I'm sure Bosman wants that status to stay. In the rematch he got another 3, all incidentally with headers. That doesn't happen very often in top-class football. Vandenberg looking for Bosman, just in that capacity. Muren. Van Tichelen, with a clever turn to lose Belanov. And I think in the end was quite happy that the play was in that area and all he had to do was jog in behind the ball. Which reminds you of the football joke that some coaches are only ever happy in the team photo because all the players are behind the ball then. Rijkaard. Here's Van Tichelen. Van Skip got a lucky break then. Muren. And that was close to reaching Gullit. Mikhailichenko was in the right place to deal with the danger. But it was an interesting cross. After the clearance, Wouters rather overdid it and gave away the free kick, but it was Muren who can measure it in. And Bobby Robson said to me recently in Amsterdam after watching the Dutch play, and Muren, his old club player, of course, at Ipswich, said we've got to stop Arnold getting the right ball in. Well, that's the theory. I'm sure that every side goes out with in mind. But he's a crafty character. And he'll find space somehow. Bosman. Kuznetsov doing quite well against Bosman in the air so far. Koeman. Bosman the target in the air again. And Gullit, the guilty party. 25 years old, championships with Feyenoord and with PSV in Holland, and now in Italy with Milan. Even in the Soviet papers, I'm sure Besanov has read chapter and verse, but with half an hour gone, Holland, although they've had more of the play, haven't broken through against the Soviet Union. Protasov's thrust not getting the better of Fanala. But he could turn a game at this end of the field, just like Gullit can do at the other. Van Tichelen, on to Van Skip, and Gullit had made the turn. I wonder about the legality of it initially, but he outthought young Mikhailichenko then, who was lured into giving away the free kick. And this is within range. Well, it takes it himself, but it's a disappointing end to it. I just wonder whether at times the dreadlocks obscure the vision. Datsaev with the more traditional approach when it comes to visiting the hairdressers. Vandenberg. Gullit immediately setting off on a run. But the sweeper is there again, Khidiatulin. And so far, the Dutch have not found anything really penetrating. The strikes have come from distance. Only the Koeman effort really on target. Belanov getting it in first time. Litovchenko. Demenenko enjoys foraging forward. It's a bit quiet when the play gets down this end. You won't be surprised when I tell you that only 48 official Soviet fans are here, the ones who've come on exit visas. 48 counted out, and I'm sure 48 counted back. If they do score, don't expect a roar. Maybe a groan from some 40,000 Dutchmen. Wouters. Booted out by Khidiatulin. It's a push on Bosman. 33 minutes gone. Holland 0, the Soviet Union 0. Vandenberg over the free kick. Gullit busying himself in the middle. Bosman poised to come in as well, right at the back. And Dasayev not convincing, but saved again. Came a long way, the goalkeeper. And even if he doesn't want to catch it that far out, he'll need a better punch. Antikulin. Rijkaard. Muren. Well picked off by Khidiatulin, who leads the counter charge, and he's got good support too. Litovchenko, and now it's Savarov. Mikhailichenko. Rats. Protasov and Litovchenko in the middle. That's Protasov. And Belanov at least getting a shot in at the end of a sweeping Soviet counter-attack. When the Dutch were guilty of some over-elaboration in the Soviet half. And Khidiatulin showing that the sweeper can be an attacking force. But this is Wouters trying to be just that for Holland. Recovered quickly, his balance and the ball. Vandenberg. Now for Gullit. Bosman's gone to the near post. Van Skip on the far side, and Mikhailichenko again, the player closest to Ruud Gullit, who fouls him. And as Gullit makes his way into the middle, he'll be joined by Frank Rijkaard. Vandenberg. Offside. And Gullit, for all his obvious qualities, fell into trap then. He watched the ball and not the opposition and just stood there. Rijkaard. Van Allen. Mikhailchenko tracking the run of Hullet again. The ball into Bosman hasn't really been of the best quality so far. But he's been used very much like you would expect England to use Mark Hateley. Wouters. Koeman. There's Mikhailchenko in the way. Dasayev's hoping the bounce will be kind to him. Wasn't a bad volleyed clearance. So there's just that edge to the anticipation when Koeman's around the edge of the penalty area. Van Tichelen. Rijkaard, and now Van Aale. The Soviets funnel back again. That's the way it's been for much of the first half. Asayev, I think, has worked out now the sort of crosses that might come in. He was well off his line to make that catch easy. Rijkaard. Some of the joy of the Dutch game is that both Koeman and Rijkaard can come forward and play with authority in midfield. But Van Aale was pressed into the back pass. Muren. Asayev well positioned again. Turned back by Rijkaard. Protasov again left us but it was outside the goal. But another example of the greater threat from Holland in the first half. But Rijkaard's given away a free kick. Four minutes remaining of the first 45. That was an unfair turn by Protasov. Van Tichelen. Tulin. Muren. Emelianenko guides it back just ahead of Vandenberg. Well, the horns amongst the crowd are being sounded to try and encourage the Dutch charge. And it's been conducted in a controlled manner, which I don't think will displease Rinus Michels. That pass would, though. Rijkaard, and Van Tichelen was lucky. The ball ran for him off Belanov. The tricks on the far side from Van Schip. Vandenberg. Bosman. He'll try himself at anything. For defenders like Kuznetsov, the aerial menace of John Bosman demands constant attention. The Soviet Union will be quite happy to see it through to half-time. Mikhailchenko's got forward in this attack. Oh, that was a Koeman error, really. With Protasov maybe half a boot's length away. from accepting what would have been a gift. And Ronald Koeman's brother Irvin, I don't think would be too pleased with the back pass. Gullit, Bosman couldn't reach it. Wouters will. But has to play it back. Koeman changing the direction of the attack. Only 1 against 1. Rijkaard met it well for Holland. Keeping an eye on Protasov. Zamanov. Zamanov has stayed almost exclusively on the right-hand side. That was disappointing for him, and he acknowledges a mistake that may have put his team in trouble. Gullit, Hidiatulin with a yellow card to his name, moved in almost recklessly then. And I think if he'd caught Gullit in full flight, he would have gone off. Bosman, Muren. It's a matter of stoppage time now. Van Aale into Wouters, who's given plenty of room to turn. He couldn't make the space count. Van Aale. But on both occasions, Dasaev has found the answer. This from much closer range than Koeman's effort, beating away from Gullit. So at half-time in Cologne's Mungersdorfer Stadium, it's Holland 0 and Lobanovsky's Soviet Union 0.
Meine Damen und Herren.
The half-time.
With greater purpose, first out, marching back onto the pitch, keeping perhaps with the mood that they must be feeling, that they've had the better of the game so far. Well, international football is often the story of the counter-attack. Here's Zavarov. Mikhailichenko through the middle, joined in there by Belanov, but the pass too far ahead of both of them. Van Skip for Gullit. Van Skip looking for the return pass. And Khidiatulin brought out of the centre. Kuman. Was expertly done to find Vandenberg, and Gullit from what, 4 yards. I don't think really saw it as it came past him, because his view was masked by defenders between him and Vandenberg's cross, but it was whipped in most threateningly. So the second half starting as the first finished. With Holland certainly looking as though they carry greater firepower. Litovchenko with a show of ambition there that would have really marked the tournament. Had that been between the posts, it was hit very early and pretty hard as well, always slewing away wide. Rijkaard and Koeman so interchangeable really in the middle at the back. Tickelen defending the left-hand side. And the wave of Mexico 86 is part of West Germany 88. Knocked away by Khidiatulin from the arriving Van Aale. Van Aale with the long throw. And Kuznetsov misjudged it. Help was at hand from Khidiatulin. Belanov. And here's Zavarov with Litovchenko also up there as well. And the Dutch still not out of the wood. They are now. Well, it loses Mikhailichenko. Finds Muren. And now Van Skip. And Van Skip was running so quickly forward that he found it hard to change his balance. Rijkaard, Koeman is there. Here's Barry Van Aale, who couldn't have thought at the start of the season he'd be playing for his country in a major championship. Bosman watched well by Kuznetsov. The Dutch settling for the throw. Koeman trying to collect it. And Van Skip turned that into a cross. It was a tackle, really. Bosman scraping it away, but only out of play. Kuznetsov. Litovchenko. Protasov, but help was there from Rats. Drilled in the end, by Kuznetsov. After the first ball had been played by Belanov, but the deflection, no source of trouble to Hans van Breukelen. Rijkaard, space to accelerate into as the Soviets retreat. Rijkaard letting rip. Borisov and Kuman in some trouble for only a moment. That's the appeal of this match, really. It remains goalless, but the scoring potential is there on both sides. Head pass Van Breukelen. And 9 minutes into the second half, the Soviets lead. And now we'll see what Holland are made of.
Tor für die ZSSR, Spielstand 0:1. Torschütze war mit der Nummer 6, Vasily Ratz.
It's not exactly a case of hearing a pin drop, but you get the drift. And now the Dutch supporters have got to recover their composure and get behind their team. Oh, and if Borisov could have collected that, there would have been problems. Ratz might do the same. And the response from Rinus Michels will be a popular move amongst the fans. He's warming up Van Basten. Well, so many of the goals have come from defensive errors in the European Championship so far. Holland will obviously ask questions of their defending, but it was a wonderful move from the Soviet Union, particularly the way they so quickly switched the direction of the attack. Muren. Skip trying to win something in vain. All the Dutch have is a throw right back by the halfway line. Not easy to predict the way the Soviet team would perform here because of some confusing build-up results. They let in 4 goals against Italy and scored 4 against Argentina since the turn of the year. But Valery Lobanovsky, the coach, who's not given to over-optimistic statements, was quoted in a newspaper interview that he believed the Soviet Union were certainly capable of finishing in the top 4. They've caused no harm at all here. Wouters. On a day when England's self-belief has been dented, the same so far has happened to the Dutch. Muren. Hidiatulin has proved a sound reader of the play so far. Kasayev uses the full dimensions of his area again, and that will deter Bosman. Nothing worse for a big striker than seeing the goalkeeper coming out, fists flying. Well, Bosman's going to have a different kind of support now. Vandenberg, not a popular choice as the player to be substituted from the crowd's reaction, but I'm sure they'll be pleased that Van Basten, whose season in Italy has been hampered by ankle injuries. But for that, he would surely have been in for the start here. And if Van Basten can help rescue Holland here, there'll be plenty of Dutchmen nodding wisely and saying, well, we told Mikkels. Well, we made our feelings known through the newspaper columns and the interviews on television. Van Basten, make no mistake about it, is a top-quality striker, and that's what Holland need. Here he is, Bosman. Koeman. Van Skip. Van Basten. Wouters going in, beaten by Kuznetsov. And here's Savarov with 3 players up in support, and the Dutch short of numbers at the back. Belanov, who caught all our attention with instant shooting in Mexico. And he played his part in the goal. Rijkaard. Gullit for Wouters, and now Koeman. It's floated up for Bosman again. He won it that time, but Dasaev and Khediatulin with enough understanding to defuse the situation. And Adrie van Tichelen here has looked rather exposed in the second half. He's only got Muren in front of him, and no disrespect to Muren, but his talents are more as a creative player than as a covering man in midfield, particularly when the opposition are attacking with pace, as Protasov does here. Mikhailichenko. The sturdy Demyanenko. Belanov is getting a lot of joy in the second half, although he has to hook it in awkwardly then. Litovchenko. Van Basten. Kuznetsov following through, but with a foot raised, and that was construed as dangerous play. Rijkaard was hoping that the ball would drop from Van Basten's chip into his path. And the Dutch showing plenty of patience in their build-up. I wonder how long they'll be able to retain that. Van Basten. Koeman. It's on. It's not in, but that's only because of Dasaev. It's turning into a virtuoso performance. We'll see from this angle the real direction. The curve was actually back away from the goalkeeper's movement, and he had to use the trailing arm to get it over the top. Gullit! That's where the Soviets are having problems. Dasaev plucks it from the head of Van Basten, but in shot-stopping terms, Dasaev has been magnificent. But the crosses might find him out. He's not looked happy, but that's always a problem for goalkeepers. Like referees and commentators, it's hard for keepers to be perfect. Rijkaard's header, only as far as Alexander Zavarov. Van Tichelen's header, Besanov. Well, he might need a second bite at it. Lewandowski watches, and it looks as though some comments are being recorded there by one of the other Soviet coaches. Van Basten, a gap momentarily opened up. Bosman, and it was away on the stretch by Besanov. Rats trying to win the throw. Bosman behind Van Basten, easy for Besanov. Oh dear. No, it looks worse when it's a player of gifted touch like Rijkaard. That's a goal kick. Hans van Breukelen, who didn't concede a goal in the qualifiers. The one goal that Holland did concede was put past Joop Hila, his only appearance in the 8 games. Breukelen's run is over now in this competition. As the game wears on, the possibility of both England and Holland being beaten in their opening game is beginning to look more and more a reality. But you mustn't write any team off that has Gullit in it. Protasov. Here's Koeman. Oh, and Van Basten. Room to turn, not a lot of support in the middle. Bosman is there now, but it was a rather tame ball in truth, from Van Basten. And it ends with groans of disappointment around the Mungersdorfer Stadium. Kuznetsov in the right place again, having a fine game. As indeed is Hidiatulin, the sweeper behind him. But still the Dutch drive forward. Koeman. Muren. Muren hoisted in, and Dansaev came out of his line again. Rijkaard in difficulties against Protasov. Cover on the Dutch then, if Rijkaard had lost that battle. Van Basten. And here Rinus Mikkels shouting from the bench at Gullit. I'm afraid my Dutch isn't good enough to give you the benefit of the translation. Off almost the launching pad again. Rijkaard is being penned back at the back by Protasov's presence. Muren, still plenty of possession for Holland. It's penetration they're looking for. They might find it now, and that would have been an own goal. Off Hidiatulin. But however it comes, Dansaev is still solving the puzzle. Muren being left again to get that accurate ball in, and it was Koeman who got on ahead of the ball to receive the pass. Zavarov. Here's Belanov, back in the right back position. Well, the Dutch fans aren't happy But I'm sure if it was 1-0 the other way, they'd be applauding the back passes. Still more than 20 minutes to go. But I'm sure those minutes will race past for Rinus Mikkels. Seems so quick for Lobanovsky. Mikhailchenko. Well, wasn't done with great control, but he got in, and so is Protasov at the near post. Wouldn't put it past the Soviet Union to score again on the break, particularly as the Dutch grow more and more desperate. In from Van Skip, Hullet, Van Basten is there, Bosman, Muren. The Soviets tried to play offside then, and in fact it wouldn't have worked because Besanov was playing them all onside. Hullet. Now the angle is good because Netsov is there again with the most important piece of defending. 25 years old, born and bred in Kiev. But this has looked a useful route for Holland. The accuracy at the dead ball situation from Muren. Kuman. Hullet couldn't get there. Muren adjudged onside. Hullet. Dasaev beat him to it. Punches a second time. Oh, great work again from Valters this time. So one by one, the Dutch players are finding out just how good Dasaev is. The goalkeeper had ventured off his line and was on his way back. Oh, and that came off Besanov. And again, the Soviets survive. Well, if you had to have a vote for man of this match, it wouldn't be too much of a problem. But it's not over yet, as the Dutch roars tell you. Particular. Van Aale. Rijkaard. Everyone but Van Breukelen is in the Soviet half, and Holland have a free kick. Now the Soviet delaying tactics, bringing referee Dieter Pauli in to hurry things along. Mikhailchenko. Well, Belanov didn't really jump for the ball. Particular, the flag is up, and that is a strange one. Mikhailchenko has beaten Kuman and finds Belanov. Mikhailchenko and Protasov in the middle. Mikhailchenko. Well, he's been spending a lot of time in the Olympic squad. Was was only recalled to the senior team for the last warm-up game. Marco van Basten for Holland. Van Schip. Now Van Tichelen. Collet. And the Soviets will be quite happy with the balls being played in from that angle, although Hidiatulin had the back of Pollet's head in his face. The blow not softened by the dreadlocks. Koeman. And Wouters not really expecting that pass. Wouters of Ajax. Frank Rijkaard, who heads the ball, started this season. Fell into dispute with the club and moved on to Sporting Lisbon, and then was loaned to Real Zaragoza. Van Schip's cross, that's Dasaev's. Like taking an apple from a tree. Rijkaard, and all the while aware of Protasov. Rinus Mikkel's puzzles from the sidelines. Short of sending on his second substitute, there's not a lot he can do now. Minutes left. Dasaev with the fist this time. Van Schip. Holland's free kick. Muren takes it. And Belanov is still down, getting no sympathy. Still down. Koeman. Waiting for Van Aale. The Soviets, in effect, playing with 10. And now, no, at least they haven't put it out of play. Well, Belanov continues to ride around. The referee has no truck with it, but it was Rijkaard who put it out. And that was a very sporting touch, given the circumstances. Well, the treatment is for cramp, administered by the teammates, as well as the training staff. This was when the muscle knotted up. As Belanov came into the back of Van Schip. The ball thrown back by the Russians to the Dutch, which again is in keeping with a match which has had impeccable behaviour. Van Basten beat Kuznetsov this time. Well, the pattern continues. The Dutch push forward. The Soviets retreat, marking disciplined. And you talk about England at times resorting to the predictable, but because of John Bosman's presence in the side and his aerial strength, the Dutch are guilty as the game moves away from them. They're just hanging in crosses and hoping. Oof. They are capable of better than that, and when they did whip the ball into Van Basten's feet, he immediately won the free kick by an adroit move that led to the foul. Muren's going to take it. Bosman and Gullit poised to attack it. They're waiting for Rijkaard. Protasov coming back with him. Here's Litovchenko. Van Aala ahead of Rats. Van Basten the target this time. Zavarov. And the Soviets starting to look as though they've weathered the storm. They want to make a substitution, presumably to take off Belanov, who is limping down on the near touch line. They have an opportunity to make that substitution now. And Sergei Aleynikov, another of the old hands, with 40-plus caps. Scored a great goal against Hungary in the 6 in '86 in Mexico, in Belanov's World Cup. But Belanov gives way to Aleynikov. Rijkaard. Gullit taking over. Here's Muren. Gullit loping forward in support of Van Basten. Koeman. Van Basten. They do look at the moment to have too many like players in there. The Dutch, they've really forgotten the principle of getting behind defenders in wide positions. They're just slinging the cross in from deeper and deeper. And most defenders will tell you that's not going to cause too much of a problem. Protasov, it's a useful break here. And Rijkaard just in the nick of time, because Protasov had Zavarov to his left, who was totally unmarked once Rijkaard had to leave him to come across. And now it's Protasov's turn to suggest that he's damaged. Once again, he lost his balance here. Got past the second challenge with a touch of the high hurdles. But Rijkaard clearly got the ball. Aleynikov. Litovchenko, and it's out of play, and the Dutch are in a hurry. Koeman. Gullit. On from Van Basten. There's the cover again from the sweeper, Hidiatulin. It's a problem really that Holland haven't solved. Maybe they can do something from the long throw from Van Aala, and Gullit off the bar, off a defender. Just as fortune forsook England, it seems to have done the same here for Holland. Gullit off Hidiatulin onto his own crossbar. Kuznetsov behind for the corner. They are coming closer and closer. Van Skip rather stood and watched then and allowed Demyanenko to clear. Oh dear, that was safety first, really, by Van Aale. Koeman, it's hit long and early. Kuznetsov won the first header, not cleanly the second. And Muren for once failed with the left foot. Now Van Tichelen. Van Skip. Litovchenko with another rangy ball forward for Protasov against Rijkaard. Protasov wanted handball. The referee didn't see it that way. Van Skip. Some 7 minutes remaining. Still Holland trail. Having been the team which has dictated the tempo of the game. Out comes Dasaev. Muren. And both Van Basten and Hullet were rather balked as they came in. Hullet retrieved. Bosman. And Van Skip had committed himself to come in this time behind him. If he stood off that time, he would have been in the better position. Zavarov. Play really stretched now because the Soviets are not pushing too many players out of the back line. They're concentrating on defending the edge of the area. Kuznetsov has done that superbly. John Van Skip. Arnold Muren. Hullet is there. And, in fact, Van Skip had a little bit more time than he realised. He doesn't score many goals in the Dutch First Division. When he does, they're usually of a spectacular nature. And he was looking to oblige Rinus Michels with something of that kind then. Lenikov played it back. Besenov with the technique to get out of trouble. A number of these Soviet players have been linked with the West in terms of being released when they become somewhat long in the tooth. Besenov is 30. And I understand he's on a list of names of players who might be considered to go. Lenikov. Perhaps surprised that Rats can hit them with the right foot. But Rats was the spare man at the back. And Van Breukelen watched it go wide this time, past the same post that Rats found a way inside. 9 minutes into the second half for the only goal of the game so far. Zavarov. Protasov is the only player forward of Zavarov for the Soviet Union, and he'll have to wait, because here's Koeman. Throw not taken from the right place. Koeman. The Dutch supporters reviving themselves and hoping to revive the team. Dasaev has come. He's got to get back quickly. Oh. Koeman looks away in disappointment. He would have seen quite early in the effort that it was going to loop off the target. you can catalogue the saves that Dasaev has made. But there have been a number of times when the luck has swung his way. And presumably, do you want me to go forward? Well, Sulak Velidze, a defender, is being asked to bolster the resistance even further. The referee has now noted Sulak Velidze is waiting, but he still wants the corner to be taken. Maybe now the substitution will be executed. Off comes Zavarov. Tengiz Sulak Velidze from Dynamo Tbilisi, down in Georgia.
Die Nationalmannschaft und der SSR wechselt noch einmal aus. Für die Nummer 9, Alexander Samarov, kommt mit der Nummer 13, Tengiz Velidze ins Spiel.
Dovchenko with the throw. Is the time for one last Dutch charge forward. Koeman delivers the long ball. Kuznetsov has missed so little. But Demyanenko was caught then by the Soviets trying to play a little too much football in their own half of the field. I wonder whether that will be costly from the long throw. Because Van Basten is there. And so too is Kuznetsov. Wouters. Wouters again. That's not really what Holland needed, although the second header was made. Bosman, who's had a disappointing night. And the Soviets might kill it all off with a second goal at the last. It seems as though they're not going to need it. Or are they? Van Basten. We're in stoppage time. Rijkaard. Muren. The orange shirts are massed in the middle. Koeman. Gullit is there. And it's a goal kick. And what a strange day it's been in Group 2. The Dutch always said that they thought this would be their hardest game, with the Soviets' reputation for starting a tournament so well. And it looks as though they're going to be quickly off the blocks in the 1988 European Championship finals. Peter Pauli, the referee, has looked across at both linesmen. Aleinikov will be happy to take it towards the corner. And Holland now have conceded a free kick. And the Soviets can take it at as much a leisurely pace as the referee will permit. Protasov and Litovchenko, the two in the middle. Well, they didn't need to be there, did they? The second goal now might be academic. What is more important for the Soviets is the ball stays up at the other end of the field. Van Breukelen. Goal 9 minutes into the second half. Sweetly taken by Vasily Rats. Have emulated the Republic of Ireland on a day of surprises in West Germany. There we are. The group table says it all. The two teams really more fancied, the two towards the bottom. But so much to play for in the games that remain. But the Dutch fans who've made their way down to Cologne in their tens of thousands have a sad journey home. Their players go off beaten by the Soviet Union by 1-0. Hi, Mike. Okay, mate, thank you. We'll be trying to get you an interview, as requested by Messrs. East and Fulsa. Our unilateral time is not until 10 to 11 here, local time. Now, the BBC's is 10 minutes earlier. If they don't take up their time, if you could be across that, maybe we could get in and make it all a bit of an earlier night for everybody. We'll certainly try anyway. Cheers, mate.